like Abe said, it's not good at having an opinion. It lacks a bit of creativity and originality, and of course you can feed opinions into the language model, but it will still come back with relatively generic answers.
One thing that AI is really, really good at is distilling large amounts of information, summarizing it into succinct, bite-sized portions of information. So getting them to summarize those large amount of information and putting them into a succinct, small paragraph or whatever it spits out at you is going to help you. So think of it like a way to create an executive summary for any body of business.
We're all part of this whole money game. This whole...
Welcome back to another episode of Beers and Business. I'm Abe Dearmer, CEO of Appsembler.
And I'm Andrew Martin, CEO of Teamgate CRM, and we're back. I don't even know what episode it is.
It's episode 9.
I've completely forgot. There you go, episode 9. Let's crack one.
I got the Bathurst Bullet today. Andrew still hasn't got himself another cup.
You beauty. Yeah, no. My wife hasn't replaced my my Stein, unfortunately.
What do you got today,
I'm
mate?
drinking a German Pilsner.
German
Pilsner again. So from your mate's brewery. Shout out to the team down there. German Pilsner, which is it's quite tasty if I'm being honest. 1.5 standard drink, so it's a good one to be having a little bit later in the day, which is great. So 11 a.m. crack this one, but
a 5 a.m.
quite
beer.
nice. Here's my beer knowledge. Is a Pilsner the same as a lager? It tastes like a lager.
I'm pretty sure they're different, but once again, we should really up our beer knowledge if we're going to be reviewing beers, right? At least we're learning. Everyone's learning, right? Like we teach people about business, and we're learning about beers. But I have today I've got the Bathurst Bullet from Reckless Brewing. So you would have remembered that I drank the red IPA on the last podcast before. So that red IPA actually won best IPA down in Melbourne recently for Reckless Brewing.
Can we take credit for that? Are we going to take credit for that?
I'm pretty sure people watched the show and went, you know what? That's a good IPA. Let's talk about that.
That's a good IPA.
So I won.
There you go.
So I was drinking a really good red IPA apparently. Tasted just like the other ones. But let's get into the Bullet. So we're all familiar with bullet time. That slow motion special effect where everything goes all matrixy and anything feels possible. Here in Bathurst, though, it's more like waiting for a train to Sydney that never comes. Happens a lot. You end up on a bus. That's when it's time for one of these clean, easy drinkers. And you know what that means. It's bullet time. The Bathurst Bullet India. Look how clear that is.
Yeah, looks like a
beer.
cider.
Yeah.
Yeah, very...
Oh, wow.
How does it taste, mate?
Tastes a bit like a Northern, to be honest.
There you go. So it's is it a lager?
It's a refreshing ale, mate.
Oh, there you go.
It is.
Like an XPA or something.
No, it's just a refreshing ale, mate.
Light
the title.
on the... how many standard drinks we
1.2.
got? There you go. So a nice, easy drinker.
Nice, easy drinker.
Nice.
There you go. Look at that. Nice colour on it.
Beautiful.
So yeah,
I'll give you a description of my German Pilsner, but I can't find anything on Google, so I'll just say that it tastes pretty good.
I'd give this a 4.6 out of 5, to be honest.
4.6. Yeah, I'd give the German Pilsner the same, I think. 4.6. Higher than my dark ale that I had last week.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Definitely more
Is that
suited
just
to my
because of the
taste buds.
time that you're drinking the beer, or is it actually because it's a better beer?
Nah,
real question.
I actually enjoyed the. I think the dark ale would have been a good one for my morning, the 5 a.m. episode, because it had a lot of coffee notes and caramel notes. I think it would
Just like your
it would have
morning
reminded
coffee,
me of
mate.
a cappuccino. Yeah, exactly. I might just replace my morning coffee with a Donny dark ale from your mates from now on. But now the German Pilsner probably higher score just because it's more suited to my immature taste buds. There you go. It's more of your classic style. And who doesn't like a German beer, right?
Exactly right. But how's the week, man? It's been happening.
Good. Dealing with a lot of sick toddlers. So they
It's
passed
under
on their
20 degrees
illnesses
in Queensland, you know.
to me. Yeah. It's freezing. I've actually got
Screw you.
the heater on right now. I'm not going to lie, the heater's on to my
No, surely not.
right hand side. I know I've done the last 2 episodes in a jumper, in a hoodie, so I thought today I'd get the Teamgate shirt out, and to do that I had to turn on the heater because it's a cold 14 degrees up in Queensland. So
14. God, how are you surviving, man?
well, with the heater, that's exactly how I'm surviving. Oh, actually, it's up to 20. It's 20 degrees at the moment. There you go.
Yeah. I was going to say 14 degrees is like we're 13.4.
It was cold this morning.
We're not too far off each other.
Yeah, it was cold this morning. There you go. I'll turn it off just for you.
Yeah, it was -2 yesterday in Bathurst. So
That's
she's
disgusting.
A bit cold. Yeah, she's a little bit cold.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, my little fella still rode to school though, which is good. Yeah, we all walked and rode, so always a bonus, mate. No stopping because of that cold weather.
No good memories
hard,
of walking to work in Bathurst, which I have with you when we used to walk into the office for that.
When you came to visit
I came down to visit.
Was it a week or 2 weeks?
Yeah. I can't even remember. It was too cold to remember.
I think it was only a week.
So, I think it was a week. It
wasn't even that cold. That was like spring or something, wasn't it?
It was cold enough. It was cold for me. A couple of kilometres walk in the morning, but yeah. Otherwise, we've both been doing some testing this week and last week, which we spoke a little bit about. But otherwise, on the business front, obviously we're coming towards the end of May, so starting to come up, towards the back end of the second quarter of the year for us. So yeah, just reviewing our performance, realigning, and getting ready to take on the second half of the year, whilst balancing sick kids and university studies and all the rest of it. But
yeah, man, I don't miss doing those university hours on top of working. That sucks.
Yeah, Monday nights. Well, I had my last lecture, for this semester last night.
Your first semester.
Just got to get that assessment in by Friday, and then I've got a little break until my next subject. So all eyes back on the business.
Yeah, exactly, mate. It's good. It's been a very busy week, but a very enjoyable week. Dealing with a few prospects, some renewals, and things like that, which is good. Some big deals, which is it's actually a pain because man, you have to really put in the hard yards for those large procurements. A lot of questions, a lot of things that need answers, and just sifting through the information is a challenge. But there is one thing that can help you do that, which is our topic of discussion for today, which is about AI and how you can get started with AI in your business if you haven't already. And if you have, you might get some ideas. If you haven't, then now's as good a time as any to start.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to be clear to listeners, they're probably thinking these hypocrites, the last few weeks they've been into the topic of AI. We have no issue with AI. We use AI, both of us, on a daily basis. The issue we have is people that are trying to sell products as AI that just aren't AI. So,
at the end of this call, at the end of this podcast, let me sell you my AI product that I built with AI. Yeah. That does nothing.
Just DM me on LinkedIn, and I'll sell you my AI consulting service, which really is just me selling you ChatGPT for an extra cost. But so I guess today we're going to take a little dive into AI. Come up with some good use cases, give some good use cases of how you can use AI, give some personal experiences of how Abe and I both use AI, suggest some tools, and then we'll leave you with some handy resources for you to go and do your own research. But obviously, the majority of our listeners are small business. So, we'll give you some techniques of where you can start, because a lot of people think AI and they think that they need to integrate it to their service offering or something like that. But, start small. You start using it to help you generate your marketing.
Andrew,
start using it.
Before you get into it, mate, come on. Hold up, we'll get there.
We're going too far?
You've gone too far, mate. You've gone too far too quick. You've gone
I'm
early.
giving away the secrets. I'm giving away the secrets. Abe doesn't want our listeners to turn off after the first 10 minutes. We've got to
You've got to drag it out, mate. You've really got to drag it out. Make sure people stick around, you know what I mean? But one thing I would say is that we I put up a post yesterday about asking for questions to be submitted. You stingy bastards only asked one question, so start asking more questions that we can answer so we can make it as interactive and interesting as possible with these podcasts. So just get on Instagram, get on to Facebook, follow us on there and look out for those posts. Or if you just have any questions in general, just shoot us a message on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, and we'll get them answered for you when we can. But, Andrew, do you want to kick us off with your learning of the week?
Yeah, sure. And I'll just to touch onto your point, Abe. Episode 10's coming up, so we need to make it a special one. So we want some questions, some engagement. We want to know what you guys want to hear from us, and even if that's you guys selecting the beers we drink in the future episodes, or forcing us to go live on an episode and answering your questions in real time. We're happy to do it, but we'll see where we go.
I can't wait to see what beer Mitch recommends.
I'd like to nominate there's a beer, a banana bread beer, which I found in Dan Murphy's the other week, and it's got lumps of what looks like banana bread in it, which I'd like to nominate for Abe to drink.
Nah, sorry, mate, they don't have it in Bathurst.
I'll ship it down for you. All right, cool. So learning of the week. So my learning of the week is outbound is not dead. We spoke about sales on the last episode. We spoke about inbound and outbound. A lot of posts across social media and a lot of themes when you talk to sales teams at the moment is outbound is dead. And a lot of that is attributed to AI. So a lot of people are automating outbound and they're automating these messages on LinkedIn and things like that. I would argue that outbound's not dead. What I would agree to is generic outbound is dead. And that is a direct result of, templated messages, AI automation that, for myself and Abe, you're probably similar. Each morning I wake up, I've got 100 new emails overnight from people trying to sell me stuff. And 9 times out of 10, I'm not even reading the email. I look at the subject, don't know that person, can clearly tell they're trying to sell me something, just delete it and move on. I don't have time to be going through 100 emails each morning. So in that case, if you're doing generic, just spamming cold emails to people, yeah, it probably is dead. But if you're personalizing, if you're trying something new, I think it's alive and well. And we've both been testing different stuff on LinkedIn recently with videos and voice messages. I did a test the last 2 weeks with outbounding sales influencers and sales trainers. So these people that have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I took a personalized approach with half and a not so personalized approach with the other half. And I had about an 80% hit rate for the personalized messages that I sent through. So small sample size, but I'll continue that testing as I go through. And I was just this morning reading a Reddit thread where people were talking about outbound and how dead it is. And someone mentioned, I think the new trend coming in soon is going to be handwritten letters, going back old school, because how do you stand out from automation and, people spamming your inbox? Like it's going to take you time to write an email, to write a letter and send it in the mail to someone, right? At least people know that you've made the effort to actually send it. So,
yeah. And I think Josh Braun has a saying that he always uses, like, be a red cross in a sea of black circles or something like that, right? But essentially the message is you just got to figure out a way to stand out. Outbound isn't dead. Shitty outbound is dead. So for people who just think they can ham it in with some, I'll just change Andrew, from your name to Andrew and the rest of the message stays the same, it's not going to work. People are got too clued on to that now. So the biggest thing is just figuring out how you can stand out, whether that be video, whether that be voice.
And people are setting traps now. It's hilarious. I tagged you in it the other day, Abe. Someone changed their name to their LinkedIn name to May the 4th, and it was on Star Wars Day, right? Yeah. Just to see if people were going to automate outreach to him using his first name, and lo and behold, he received a message. Hey, May the 4th. I love your content. X, Y, and Z. So, yeah, automation.
But that's the whole thing behind the tricky emojis
now,
in LinkedIn names. Why people have put emojis in their LinkedIn names and why that was such a big thing was because it bought out all the automatic outreach tools that were out there because it put the emoji in there, like who uses an emoji when they're greeting someone.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's my learning of the week. What do you got?
Yeah, nice. So busy week last week. Some bigger accounts. My learning of the week is big accounts are hard work. So make sure you price them appropriately. So when you look at getting a bigger client, they're going to be needy. If they have a lot of staff that are working on the project, they're going to have a lot of requests. They're going to want things done. They're going to submit development tasks. They're going to be on your case, pretty much 24/7 because they have the staff that are focused on it. So you just need to make sure that when you go through that procurement process, that pricing process don't be afraid to price them appropriately for the service that they expect is really the biggest thing, because they're going to expect you to be on call. They're going to expect you to have a developer ready. They're going to expect you to be, to come back and fix something if it's not working as they expected, all of those sorts of things. Depending whatever industry you're in, these bigger clients are always going to keep pushing those boundaries. So, if you're in software, they're going to want development, they're going to want support 24/7, they're going to want you on call to fix things. If you're in as an electrician, they're probably going to expect a certain standard of work or a time frame for work to be completed, or they might potentially have you on call for any faults that are going to be resulted, just in general usage, right? So make sure that you have priced them effectively for them to get that service and make it worth your time. Because too often we think, I want to win this big contract, this big name, and we undervalue our services and price them lower than what we should, and then end up regretting it later when we're like, oh man, they're a loss-making machine for us because we have to give them X, Y, and Z service when they're really not paying for it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of studies around that as well, right? You and I both, had a look at them through Xenon, and we won't go into too much details, but around, I forgot the key word, but it's like around a premium product, right? People are more likely to go. It's not always necessarily the cheapest product that wins. If you've got value, if you've got some sort of air of, premium, some sort of premium product, they're going to pay more based on that service and based on that process, whether it's through the sales process, the interactions they've had with you. So don't price yourself out just because you think you need to be cheaper, especially with the big deals. What you think is a big price for them is probably chump change in the end, and you're putting in all the effort to try to win that deal as well. So
yeah, and that's why if you can employ a bit of never split the difference and try and understand how much they have
there you go.
allocated to the tasks, that'd be ideal. But on the quotes, Andrew, what do you got for us?
You know who I've got. Back.
The one line
Back
man
with another
himself.
one. What line what is it, week 4 with Jimmy Carr?
I think so.
So people are jealous of what you've got. They're not jealous of how you got it. So just comes back to a lot of people. What really pisses me off is when someone says you're lucky, or you're lucky to... Andrew, you're lucky to work from home. So, you got a desk job. You're not out here shoveling shit, for $20 an hour. It's like, yeah, cool. You don't see what, happens behind the scenes or how hard I've worked to get to this point, right? And this isn't a personal quote. This is for everyone. This is like my wife, who's, they see her job as psychologist and she earns good money, and it's like, oh, you're so lucky. It's like, no, she did 8 years of study to get to where she is. So, yeah, it's a good quote. I think it's really, really good. And you sent me a post the other day on Instagram as well with, I think it's James Smith, the personal trainer. Just a screenshot of his battle.
He did a reel, right? He's
his drive, right?
I've been doing this for like 8 years or something like that, he said. He's like, this is where it was.
Posting consistently on YouTube for 8 years, where it was like no views, no clicks. And then his followers finally hit a certain amount, and then his views went up to a point to where he is today, and everyone's like, oh, you're so lucky to be an overnight sensation. And it's like, you haven't seen what's happened for the last 8 years. Yeah, I've seen success over the last couple, but you don't see what went into that. So,
and I think that's where that grinding. how you talked about previously about like episode 7, 90% of podcasts fail because they get to episode 7, they're like, oh, we're not getting enough views, we're not getting enough clicks, we're not getting enough of this, that, and the other thing, and then they go, oh, well, it's over. There's no point.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so for anyone out there grinding, just keep grinding. Don't worry about luck. You make your own luck by working hard. So yeah, that's my quote of the week.
And it was purely by chance that I was talking to one of the personal trainers, Jim, and she was talking about wanting to start, doing videos. And I was like, you just can't let perfect get in the way of good. And you can't benchmark yourselves against these people like James Smith, who, I mean, you look at his videos, they're very well produced, great quality, great editing. Like, a lot of work goes into those videos, and not to discredit what he does, they're great stuff. But you can't benchmark yourself against him because he's been doing it for 8 years. I guarantee you go back and look at, video 1 that he did.
His original ones, yeah.
You're like, oh man, this is horrible. Who would watch this? And it's simply because it's a journey. You don't get good at it overnight. Overnight sensations don't happen in any field. There's a reason why people go to university and still start out at the lowest job when they get into the job market. There's a reason why, trades take years, not days. And it's because you need to perfect the art over time. It doesn't just happen. So don't let perfect get in the way of good with that stuff as well.
100%. And that's something I had to get over as well. Like, just being so detail orientated, like, especially with videos and things like that, you put it off because you want it to be this, 20
you think
minute
to yourself,
long.
I can't put anything that's going to...
Yeah, 20 minute long, flawless script that you've written. And it's like, I just started doing like 60-second videos. Like, hey, this is how you use LinkedIn in
One
Teamgate.
take.
And just
screw it up.
take 60 seconds, throw it out there, because then when a customer messages me and says, hey, how do I integrate my LinkedIn? I just send them the video and they're like, this is brilliant. They don't care that it's not, some highly, produced quality thing. And it was probably a big blocker for this podcast as well, right? Like, getting on talking for an hour, you're like, originally, like, this is terrifying. I need
we
to have
started you off with 30 minutes, mate, just to,
every
just to
detail
get you going,
planned out. And it's a blocker, right? At the end
I
of the
think
day,
it was the first one we went to record. You went, I'm not ready. What do you mean? I haven't had time to... I haven't structured. I hadn't done this. And it's like, you're trying to let perfect get in the way of good. And I think it's like, all right, we'll schedule it for tomorrow. And I think it sort of forced you... That was like a forcing mechanism for you to just go... I think you got on and you went, oh, I don't really know what's going to happen, but screw it, let's do it. And then we did it, and everything turned out fine, and you went, okay. And now it's a lot more relaxed when we go into these as opposed to the high stress that it was. But on to my quote, which is, don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. And that's from Jim Kwik. So Jim Kwik has a whole heap of books out there. Limitless is probably his most famous one. He's got a podcast as well. He does a lot about like learning and helping people, I guess, build those systems in place to get to a certain point. But I think this is really important because the amount of people who start businesses or found businesses and then they get critiques from people from the sideline who have never done what they're doing, and they sit there and say, oh, what if this happens? What if you should be doing this instead? You should be doing that instead. And it's like, mate, you're not even on the same level, and you're out here, critiquing me or giving me criticism on what I'm doing. And it's like, you just need to block all that stuff out and just accept that there's going to be people out there that are going to criticize you no matter what, and just don't bother listening to them because it's not worth it. It's just going to eat away at you, and just gravitate towards the people who foster positivity in your life, not the ones who are going to drag you down.
Yeah, they're in the bleachers for a reason, right? And it's so many personal stories. Like, my family doesn't listen. Oh, I don't think my parents or my grandparents will be listening to this. But even like the decision, I don't know if you had the same. When I finally made the decision to leave the army and move into this world, it was like, what are you doing? You're an idiot. And again, you just you're making the decision based on your knowledge, your situation, and what you know. And there's no point listening.
It goes two ways. I had some people who were like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like, how could you do that? You're doing this, you're doing that. career that you build, blah, blah, blah. And then I've got, other people, my mate from Dubbo, Dwayne, who listens in, he's probably like the biggest fan, right? And he was like, I texted him and said, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. And he goes, I started crying because I was so happy that you're finally like doing something else, like getting and doing something that gives you a bit more freedom, because he's successful in business and it's like finally you're going to use potential type thing. And so it's like gravitate towards those people, the ones that are going to be like, great, this is such an opportunity for you, I'm so happy, do all these things, compared to the other people who are, oh, well, what about this? What if this happens? The negatives and things like that. Like, just gravitate towards those people who foster positivity.
Yeah, you're always going to have the what ifs and the so whats and there's probably a reason why those people are on the sidelines, is because they focus on the what ifs and the so whats. So
yeah.
Anyway,
there's your pep talk for today. Get in there. Get action.
25 minutes in, and
get into it.
We're giving lectures, but
and one day we'll do a podcast on I think leadership and things like that as well, where we, Andrew and I have a fair bit of experience with, mainly from our army career, but also leading, I guess, smaller teams in a dispersed environment with our current roles. So we will focus on that, and I guess how to foster that positivity and some mindset stuff as well. But today, let's talk about AI. Do you want to lead us off, Andrew, with what is AI? So, like anything, let's go through and define it.
Let's define it.
Before
AI
we get in trouble.
is another acronym. So we love acronyms on this podcast. So AI, artificial intelligence. So obviously, of recent times, it's started to explode, and it's all over social media. It's all over the news. It's all over conferences. If you go into conferences, it's in every product and every marketing campaign that you've ever seen. So from a traditional sense, I guess AI started as an analytical tool. So it was looking at historical data, and then it would use historical data to, predict future performance, future, data around analytics, right? So in a traditional sense, that's what it is. That's what it was. Recent times with the explosions of things like ChatGPT.
And I think it's important to say as well with that, I guess what you say is traditional AI, your purist would say that would be machine learning.
Machine learning, yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of people would have like AI/ML as their
that's
pieces,
like their traditional.
Right? Yeah, and that's like your traditional. And I think the important thing about machine learning, I'll let you talk about, I guess, what generative AI is, because that really will distinguish the difference anyway.
Yeah, and generative AI, that's what's really started to explode of recent times, and largely because of ChatGPT. But now there's more and more starting to hit the market and starting to compete for market share in the generative space. So the difference between, I guess, generative and traditional and your machine learning is it starts to produce new outputs, and it can be, in sync or even indistinguishable from human generated content. So it's a lot more flexible, I would say, than your machine learning, your traditional, because that's obviously going off historical data, whereas your generative is searching and generating responses based on essentially what's out there on the internet and what it already has learned. So obviously there's restrictions still around generative AI, but we're starting to see it really expand its capabilities with the new releases of things like Gemini Advanced, which recently got pumped out. I think it was last week or the week before. ChatGPT just released a new version, which is just taken another step forward with video recognition and voice recognition and
GPT-4,
that sort of stuff. It's massive. And I believe OpenAI's CEO just said ChatGPT-4 is the dumbest version of generative AI that you will ever see. That's what he said like a week ago. Like, you have no idea what's coming. So, it's definitely interesting times, and definitely a time that we need to be aware of what's out there, how it can be used to leverage your company or improve your personal side of the company as well, how you do things. So we'll go through a bunch of different tools. We'll go through a bunch of use cases and go from there. But do you have anything to add around?
I think the big distinguish, like, just to think of it as, okay, that's a lot of words about, traditional versus generative. And what I would say is generative AI is creative, is the biggest way to look at it. It's like having an artist at your fingertips. It's like having a story writer at your fingertips. It's like having someone who can go and analyze your financial situation to provide you with a optimized solution for moving forward, and based off massive amounts of data sets. And I think it's important to understand as well is that AI is built off data sets. So like traditional AI, it still needs something to fuel it, but generative AI is able to take that and make, creative decisions from the data it's got, whereas traditional AI could not. So when you look at something like ChatGPT, they're capturing the internet constantly. Anything that's open on the internet, they're capturing it and then putting it back into the language model, which then allows ChatGPT to think and operate. So one thing that's important to note is 3.5, I'm not sure what year it's up to date with, but I think 4.0 is like almost instantaneous up to date as far as capturing the internet and things like that.
I think 3.5 is 2008.
Yeah. So just know that when you're using 3.5, as opposed to the paid version, is that the data is not going to be as correct. So the big wins is essentially with 4.0 is that it's going to be more update towards the data that's available today.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we've already started on the next section, but obviously the most popular AI tools out there and the most dominant in regards of, generative AI, ChatGPT obviously is the monster, and what most AI tools are built off the back of. But there's still different versions within GPT itself. So there's ChatGPT 3.5. So that's your current free version, and that's the one Abe was just talking about, where relatively not limited, but it isn't as advanced as the other models.
You've never used AI before. You look at 3.5, you're like, oh, this is great, this is amazing.
This is amazing.
But if you've used 4.0 and then you go back to 3.5, you go, oh, this is slow, it's inaccurate, it's crap, the outputs are rubbish.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the one with in regards to limits to how far back they go and the data that they can access. ChatGPT 4.0, you need to define these now because the newest version is 4.0. So
the number
ChatGPT
0. So for all those army people that'll be watching and
the
critiquing Andrew and I for, saying O instead of 0, it's actually 4.0.
4.0, the letter O. So ChatGPT 4.0 is the previous model. Paid subscription required to access 4.0, more advanced. And then the newest version that just came out is 4.0. So this is the next step altogether. So some really cool videos out there of use cases, how it's been used already. It can utilize your camera on iOS. So like if you've got an Apple iPhone or
they finally got an Apple app, which is amazing.
You can download the app.
That was a big gripe of mine before, where I couldn't use ChatGPT without going into a web browser. But now I'm on the app.
Now it's on the app. There's voice recognition, so you can have it open and be doing whatever you need to do. You could be driving a car, have it open in your on your phone stand, and you could be having a conversation with ChatGPT while you're driving and getting answers or listening to different things as you go. But one of the coolest use cases I saw was a parent with their child, and they used the iPad to show ChatGPT the maths equations on the kid's homework and said, I don't want you to give him the answers, but act as a tutor and nudge him in the right direction. And it literally educated this kid into completing his algebra homework as a tutor. So, each action that the kid would take when he was writing down sums, it was saying,
parents are going to pay money for ChatGPT 4.0 just for the case, insane. Like when they don't have to learn, adjectives, nouns, verbs, long division again.
The way schools change long division and everything every year, it's massive. So That's GPT. Obviously, that's what I use in my day to day. It's what a lot of
It's also what I
AI
use.
models are built off. Yeah,
I actually think there's probably a bit of bias about first on the market. So ChatGPT was the first one I used, and we're going to talk about the other models, but I just could never. The differences were too stark between the other models that I just could never make the switch, and I didn't really feel the need to, because I felt like ChatGPT was giving me what I wanted. So I wasn't thinking to myself, this is crap, I'm going to go use something else. I tried to use them. I was like, it's almost the same, maybe not as good, but it's different. I don't really like different, so I'm going to stay with ChatGPT. That's the sort of thought process when I look back at when I tried these things and what I went through. Was that the same with you, Andrew?
yeah, and I've gone and tried, and so I guess if we move on to the next one, Google Gemini is probably the other big player. They just launched a new product, Gemini Advanced. So from my initial thoughts on Gemini Advanced, it looked really, really good. So I immediately went to test it, and the sign-up process was an absolute nightmare. So we spoke about conversion rate optimization a couple of episodes ago, but geez, it was almost impossible to sign up. So I didn't bother. And then I jumped on Reddit, and I actually saw a lot of reviews that said, all these features that they've promised in their advertising, they're not actually there. So people have gone and paid for this product. They've been gated from the product, so they had to pay to even test it, and then it's not there. And I spoke to their support team when I was trying to sign up, and they were just as helpful. So
Probably using AI, mate.
They themselves said, "Oh yeah, that feature's not actually available yet. It's coming soon." So they've advertised a lot of features and then released the product when the features aren't out yet. So yeah, I've tested Gemini. I've looked at Copilot for my studies because it integrates nicely with 365.
Conveniently.
I just don't think the quality's there yet. I think ChatGPT is still a far superior product. But yeah.
Which actually surprises me when you say that you use Microsoft Copilot and you found that it wasn't as good as ChatGPT, which I don't know if everyone knows this, but ChatGPT is pretty much owned by Microsoft. They own so many shares in ChatGPT that you could argue that they are the decision makers for it. But it just seems that ChatGPT has managed to keep their software proprietary away from Microsoft. So their Copilot hasn't been able to fully leverage. I think if you had, GPT 4.0 inside Copilot, you wouldn't be making that comment about, it's just not quite there yet. It's just crazy to think that although Microsoft owns a heap of it, they actually don't get to utilize it in Copilot.
Yeah, for sure. And that's probably that's the ideal product for me.
Yeah.
GPT 4.0 in 365, or even if they could somehow manage to get it into Google Docs, that'd be even better. But Gemini might push
Stuck
that
with
off.
Gemini and Google Docs, mate.
Yeah. Obviously, so ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, they're the three key players. Obviously, ChatGPT is in its own, first to market. Gemini is Google's solution to it, and then Copilot is Microsoft's product offering.
I haven't actually checked 4.0, but does it do references?
Yes.
Links now? So it'll link
yeah.
out to where it got its information from? Yeah, okay. So that was that was a big distinguisher between Google Gemini and even the Microsoft Bing search engine, the Microsoft AI that was in there, was it was able to search the web as it goes and provide references to web pages. But if 4.0 can do that now, then realistically the competitive advantage just shrinks even further for those products that come out of it. And then there's a whole heap more, but one that we know a few people that are using is actually Perplexity. And so this is a really interesting tool because they haven't created their own AI. What they've actually done is they've just integrated all of the APIs from the different AI models. So, for instance, if you like the way ChatGPT writes blogs, but you like the way that Google Gemini gives you research answers, and you didn't want to pay for both subscriptions, you can pay a subscription for Perplexity, which is equal to one of those subscriptions. But it also gives you access to other tools like the Midjourney, which is for creating images, and DALL-E, which is in ChatGPT as well. So you can go through, and with Perplexity, you can turn on GPT, switch to Gemini. I think there's another model that's in there as well. And you can also switch between 3 image models. And so I think that's the real value of Perplexity that gives you, is it's a bit of a smoother interface. They had a mobile app. They still have it. And you could switch between the different models. So if you had model preferences for different things, then that's where Perplexity is a really good tool, because you can switch between them. But now that GPT has a mobile app, Perplexity lost its edge a little bit there, because that was one of the big things that I liked about Perplexity. But now GPT has solved that problem for me in a better way as well. So one thing that is important to point out is that don't be fooled into buying these AI products. And you've heard us talk about it before, our hate of people just white labeling APIs for AI and then selling it off to someone else. ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and Microsoft Copilot, realistically just get one of those, right? If you just stick with ChatGPT, I would argue that you're in a great direction, because you can have DALL-E, which allows you to produce images as well in ChatGPT. So that's really all you need. So if you think to yourself, oh, I've got, it's like streaming services. You want Netflix, but suddenly you end up with 6 different services and end up paying, $200 a month for TV that you never watch because you don't have time for it. Same thing with AI. Don't sign up to a whole myriad of different AI tools. Just pick one and just use it. Like, there's so many different, we're a specialist in this. Just learn the prompts and just use ChatGPT, because that's probably what most people have running behind the scenes anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we segue nicely into some use cases. So obviously there's tools out there. Recommend everyone do their own research, or at least go and trial the main 3 there, and make your decision. But we both use ChatGPT. We're going to go through some use cases of how you can start implementing, or how most companies potentially integrate AI into their services. And the first one is probably the most common one, or at least for you and I, and it's around content creation. So I rely heavily on this because I have no marketing team. So Teamgate has no marketing team. I am the marketing team. So I use AI really to force multiply myself.
What a marketing team today.
There you go. All that traffic, that's on me. AI really is just a force multiplier, right? It makes, instead of me writing a blog and spending 4 hours writing a blog, I can use AI to build a template, to, build the bones of a blog, and then it requires me, checking it or, polishing it for 30 minutes rather than 4 hours, so I can get, a lot more done in a shorter time period. So content creation is massive. For those that have visited our YouTube channel, you'll see some shorts, so some snippet videos. That's all AI generated. So we use tools to...
Don't go lifting up the covers
here, mate.
Jeez.
There you go. Break the
Giving
fourth
away
wall.
secrets.
Break the fourth wall there. That's not Abe misspelling words as a AI closed captions. That's AI generating those closed captions and finding small snippets of value from these longer podcasts that we can post as smaller, more digestible clips. So blogging is massive. So Abe and I both use GPT to blog.
And I think it's
image generation,
just to talk about content creation.
Spoke about.
It's really important that you set the scene for whatever AI you're using before you start trying to create this content. Like having a target audience in mind, having a keyword that you want to target in mind, having a particular topic that you want to discuss, having how long you want the blog to be is important. Or, providing as much of a description as possible is essential to getting these tools to the place you want to go. And there's a I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, download our free ebook on ChatGPT prompts that'll guarantee to grow your business, because there's 1,000 of those on there. You just have to go and search ChatGPT prompts and you'll get a million of them. But the important thing is you need to make it specific for you. And so Andrew and I have looked through a number of these different, bits and pieces that we can look at for ChatGPT prompts, and we've gone through and edited them for us, made them specific for us. We've gone through and combined, mashed together, changed, tested, and created different prompts that work for us. Now, I'm hesitant to give them to people, not because I want to protect it because of some sort of proprietary knowledge or anything like that. It's just, it probably won't work for you. And then you'll sit there and go, this is crap, it doesn't work. It's like, well, you have to really make it specific for what you need and what you want out of it, as opposed to what I made it for.
Yeah. I think that's a big caveat with everything in using AI is it's the old adage of shit in, shit out. If you're putting, shit prompts in or bad data in, the AI is only going to spit out what you're putting in. So having those templates, just testing and generating, like you said, an outline. So getting, what we generally do is we get ChatGPT to generate an outline based on our prompts. So, hey, I want to write a blog on this keyword targeting this audience. I want it to be this long, written at a 12th grade level. Generate an outline for a blog, this many words. Then you get them to amend the outline, and then you make the changes and get it to actually generate the blog piece by piece. So there is a little bit of work that needs to go into it, but by doing that work, you save yourself so much time on the back end, because
a lot of that work's just up front. You do it once and then you can just
it's up
reuse
front,
it.
and then you keep that template, you paste it back into ChatGPT, change the keyword. There's your next blog. That's a big one, is blogging, audio editing, image generation. So Dolly or Dali, however you say it, and Mid-Journey.
I just say Dali.
There you go. You can generate images, logos, mascots.
To be honest, I think Mid-Journey is better for doing images.
100% better. Yeah,
but
100% better.
Do you want to pay the money to use something that's like going to be better, or do you just want to use Dali that's in there? So you just have to think about that when you go forward.
Yeah, and Dali, like it's good enough. I think where it struggles is obviously with words and numbers. So if any of so usually I just tell it to don't include words or numbers, and it's pretty good output. But there's other tools for voiceovers. So you hear a lot of LinkedIn videos now that have voiceovers, things like that. You can use AI to generate human demos.
If you actually look on
voiceovers.
ChatGPT on the website, on the OpenAI website, they've got movies that they've created using AI only. And people are like, oh, it's going to overtake the movie industry. And it's like, man, they would have had to put so much work into prompting that to get that like 30-second snippet of that movie. Like, it's not there yet. You can't say like, hey, create a movie. But what people are practicing with, and Team Treehouse, which is one of the companies in Xenon, they created an AI course. And so what they did was used AI to get the course outline, generate the notes of the course, went through and checked it, and then they put it through this AI tool that creates a virtual instructor that will give you, that will stand here like I am and go through and
talk you through
the course. But there's something about it which is not quite right for me. I didn't feel comfortable. Some people would probably be fine with it. It's almost like it's too perfect that I can't relate to it enough. They don't have filler words. They don't do...
there's no EQ.
There's no mannerisms, right? It's just they're just reading the script robotically because it's AI. And there's a person there, but it's not really a person sort of thing.
Yeah, and we'll get to what AI does well and doesn't do well, and I think EQ is a big thing. Like it can't interpret your behaviour, or if you're doing well in the course, doing bad in the course, how you're feeling about it. So yeah, we'll wrap up on content creation. So some handy tools, and we're going to drop a handy resource in the show notes that has just a massive list and breakdown of different AI tools for different use cases. So we won't spend any time on this, but Jasper, you and I both use Jasper. It's a blog AI writing tool.
It pretty much just has like prompts. like pre-filled prompts. You give it
pre-filled prompts.
You give it information, it does the prompts for you. So we started with that, and then we moved away from it once we realised we could just do it ourselves. So I'd argue that if you are creative enough to come up with your own prompts, then it shouldn't be an issue.
Just skip it and go straight to ChatGPT. Video. So one of the video snippet tools that we
May or may not use
to generate content, and then Midjourney is an image generator similar to all these. So
Tiwi is another one there that's pretty new to the market. So what that does is that's automatic blog creation. So it can actually integrate with your CMS, and so when you give it the keywords to create, you can put it on a schedule as well. So it's like, hey, I want to publish a blog every week. And you give it the keywords, it'll give you the, or you can search for keywords with it, and then it'll just create a blog and publish it automatically to your CMS without you having to touch it. So just taking that next step of time saving with AI, where it's just completely automated, you don't have to touch it.
Yep. Moving on from content creation. So we've got customer support. So I guess in particular here, we'll talk about chatbots. Intercom, for those who aren't familiar, is a support chatbot tool that you can use. So if you were to
Most
go to a website,
would have interacted with Intercom at some stage.
yeah. If you've gone to a website, if you go to teamgate.com, there'll be a chatbot down the bottom right that says, "Hey, we're here to help. Do you have any questions?" Okay, that's Intercom. So Intercom's recently released some AI chatbots. There's other tools out there like Bot Penguin and a heap of others. I personally hate AI chatbots.
I can't stand it.
I don't know about you guys, but they seem to send me in loops around and around and around and around, and all I want to do is speak to a person. It's like when you try to talk to Telstra or someone now on the phone, right?
To be
It's
honest,
like, answer this question.
I don't blame the AI. I blame people's inability to understand that they need to give the AI the information it needs to solve the problem. And that's the biggest issue. I think one AI that I actually don't mind, as far as my interactions with it, the chat support bot, is the Woolworths AI. So I get like groceries, online orders, gets delivered on a Sunday, saves, going to the shops, whatever. But if there's something wrong with the order, I can talk to the AI bot, and it's generally pretty good at solving the problem. It seems like they've put effort into doing it. So what I would say is that people just put these AI bots up there and they go, oh, AI is going to handle our customer support stuff now. We don't need as many reps. Fantastic. Well, what have you done to enable AI? Oh, we just put AI in. What else do you need?
Support hub. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you have to fuel it somehow, put parameters in for when it links people to real support instead of Andrew going around in loops and getting frustrated.
Yeah. And I guess that's for people how would I implement AI into a support bot or chatbot? Generally, it's based off, a support center or a support hub. What you've seen in the past is just it would identify a keyword that you've said in your inquiry, and it'll just push you towards an article. Did this article help? Yes or no? And then it pushes you another article, until they ask you if you want to speak to a human. If they ask you at all. Some products, Pipe Drive, shout out to my competitor, don't even have that option. So you're just going around in loops and loops and loops, which is really, really painful. Woolworths is a good one. Good to see Abe supporting the CEO of Woolworths there. So shout out to Woolworths for their AI chatbot. But generally speaking, if you can have a human on the other side, or even a way for them to contact you, make sure it's in there. Otherwise, it's just going to send people around in a loop that frustrates them. But
I think the Woolworths CEO was within his rights to walk out in that interview. How dare they ask him about price guide?
And his $12 million salary.
But on to meeting recordings and transcripts. So this is a really good one, and for people who do a lot of meetings, it is actually really helpful to get these AI summaries. And Andrew, you've done a lot of work with the Grain CEO, and could be a good guest to get on the podcast eventually to talk about some things that he's seen. But one thing that I really like about Grain is that I get an AI summary of the meeting sent to Slack after the call. And so immediately that tells me, all right, here's a summary of what was talked about. Here's key points during the meeting. And then here's the tasks that have come out of that. that need to be focused on out of that meeting. And for me, that's really cool because previously, I'm sure before recorders or even with recorders without that summary, you used to think to yourself, oh, God, what was I meant to do? And you either have to write it down, remember it, or ask someone. Or when the recorders are around, you'd have to go and rewatch the recording and try and pick out where that point was that topic came up. But with tools like Grain, it just comes automatically in. And so now you've got this, boom, okay, I know what I need to do. What's next?
Yeah, and I think so for the people out there that are like don't do a lot of online meetings, so it would be as if a third person was in this call right now between Abe and I listening, and you know, at the end of the call you get an email that has a full transcript of what we discussed, but also a summary of, you know, these were the key points. And I think the really powerful part about Grain, which a lot of people don't actually know, and I only recently found out, is you can create call templates. So, you know, we haven't gone into sales methodologies yet, but we mentioned gap selling. So for gap selling, you have a, you know, current state, future state, and what is the gap and how do we get there? So you could create a gap selling call template, tell the AI, you know, what you expect to hear in current state. So what are their current problems? What are their, you know, their current processes? You can tell what you expect to hear in the future state. And then at the end of the call, the call summary you get is in the format of gap selling. So it's current state, future state, gap, next steps. So I think that's really, really powerful.
Opens up Grain, starts creating the call template now.
It's adaptive to your own sales process. Whereas, you know, in the past, people will list AI meeting recorders, and it's really just a you know, voice to transcript tool. Whereas Grain's doing some really cool things in that space, and it's very similar to Gong, very similar to Chorus, just at a much lower.
And actually, you know, shout out to Poly AI. So a bloke I know, Enrique, he works there. He's over in Europe. Poly AI, and this is probably to take it away from people who do Zoom calls and things like that. Poly AI is an AI booking service. And so if you own a restaurant or really any business where people call up to make a booking, you can actually set up the AI to receive that call and book people in. And so it gets the information about, okay, well, for a restaurant, for instance, this is one of their big use cases that they have. It's like, okay, call up. And it sounds natural. So they put in ums, ahs, and, oh, let me check on that. Instead of being, you know, like, oh, you want table for three is now booked. It goes through and gives you that sort of familiarity of a human interaction.
Human interaction, yeah.
And so you call up and you say, hey, you know, to be like, hey, this is Frank here from Andrew's restaurant. Oh, hey, Frank, can I get a table for 3 for 7 o'clock? Table for 3 at 7 o'clock. Let me check. And then it'll, you know, check the database and do analysis and say, yep, we can fit a table for 3 at 7 o'clock. This is the table we're going to give them. Books it in and says, yep, yeah, Frank, your table for 3 is now booked in, 7 o'clock. Look forward to seeing you tonight. Is there anything we should know about before you come? No. Okay, cool. And so that's a really cool tool for people who might not want to constantly be on the phone. So if you're running a building company and your phone's ringing off the hook, potentially you could look at utilizing something like Poly AI to take that off your hands and start to get that information that you need to get those summaries. So when you wrap up for the day and you go back and review everything at night, you can start to understand what things have come through.
Nice.
But let's talk about productivity.
Yeah,
so,
in the interest of time.
Yeah, in the interest of time.
Speaking of time.
So
productivity.
I'll talk about this because I actually use one of these tools. So I imagine that most people have been targeted with emotion advertising. Have you seen that on like Instagram and things like that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
It's around like for the cost of a coffee, you can have your own personal assistant or something.
Yeah, that's Motion.
Something like that, yeah.
I use Motion. That's where I started. I used Motion and it was really complex and crap. I don't know whether they've changed it, but it was really crap. Marketing, though, they're spending a lot of money, so they must have a lot of fun. I use Reclaim and I actually really like it. It allows me to input tasks and then it'll automatically schedule them on my calendar. I can put habits in to make sure that it schedules the habits, and it locks the day at the start of each day. So come midnight, the tasks will lock in for the next day. So you log on, what have I got on today? Just send me a reminder of like, hey, you've got to send this quote out to so-and-so. Hey, you've got to turn up to this and do this. Whereas with Motion, it was just really complex. But what it allows me to do is it allows me to stay on task, get more done, because I get an alert that says, hey, buddy, you're meant to be, creating a blog post right now. But, oh, shit, I am too. And then I'd get stuff done. And so for me, it's really allowed me to stay on track and get away from using, paper tasks reminders and things like that.
Tradespeople, listen when I say this. You need this.
Yes.
You need this.
Yeah.
If you're one of the tradesmen I've used in the last 2 years for my renovations, you guys need this because you are terrible at following up when you need to. No, they're good once they get your money, like Mitch. It's the initial stages of, does he collect? He's expensive, that bloke. Still trying to get him to come down and play for the mighty POL Bulldogs, but we're getting
anyway. We don't go. But yes, I think Reclaim is really good for anyone who has a busy schedule and has trouble staying on task. Get Reclaim because it'll just obviously the biggest part is you actually have to follow what it tells you to do. So you need to adhere to that, and it'll work. And it's a bit of setup, but it's worthwhile.
Yeah, for sure. And the last one, just quickly, we're not developers, so we won't spend too much time on this, but the development and tech space, obviously if you've got product developers or technical people in your company that are writing code and doing all that fun stuff, originally a lot of AI was used for this. So co-pilots in GitHub, so tools that help developers write code correctly. They can check your code. And then taking the next step of like QA testing and software testing. So once the code's written, testing your product to see if there's any errors or anything that needs to be addressed before you launch that product live, or even post pushing that product to a production. So that's all I'll spend on that before we go into positives.
What is AI good at? Look, if you haven't picked up on it already, Andrew and I probably dropped a lot of hints or talked about stuff in enough detail that people go, okay, we realise what it's good at. So the biggest one here is that I've probably found the most value in early on and continue to find the most value in is blog writing. But one thing I will caveat that with is don't ask AI to write a blog for you that has an opinion in it, because they suck. They are not opinionated. They won't take sides. You can't ask them to compare things accurately because it just doesn't work. I don't know what it is, but it's something that's written in them where they're not allowed to take sides or have opinions about things.
So would you say for blog content, if we broke it up into top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel, you're going to use AI more for your top of funnel, middle funnel, right?
Yeah, top middle. Because bottom of funnel I see as being like really opinionated. People are in their buying process and they go, okay, I want to compare X and X, or X and Y, show me what are the comparisons. And AI sucks at doing comparison articles, at least at the moment. That might change.
Yeah, for sure. The next one, message testing and script generation. So we are going to do an episode on hypothesis testing and how to A/B test and things like that. So we'll touch on this in more detail then. But, if you've got a particular script, particular message you want to test, like I said with my LinkedIn test last week, a particular personalized message that I was sending to people on LinkedIn, which was really effective versus a generic one, you could put those messages into AI and say, give me some different messaging around these pain points or this value proposition and see what it comes up with. So just helping you with idea generation and script generation initially, I still recommend going in and adding that personalized touch and human touch to it before you send it out. But it's definitely good in the planning stages, really, for any task. So helping you generate those initial plans. And the next one I'll let you touch on because it's very close to your heart over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, large document summary. Yeah. So one thing that AI is really, really good at is distilling large amounts of information, summarizing it into succinct, bite-size portions of information. So if you're doing university or you've got let's just say you're trying to figure out something that's on the ATO or whatever the case may be, the Australian Taxation Office, for those listening outside of Australia, you might ask that question of ChatGPT or submit a document into ChatGPT. The one thing you really have to be careful for, though, is that security requirements. Don't go uploading, documents that could potentially be sensitive into ChatGPT, but documents that are not even so much, documents that are, I guess, available to everyone in every sense of the word, or if you or already on the internet, so they're already ungated on the internet, right? So getting them to summarize those large amount of information and putting them into a succinct small paragraph or whatever it spits out at you is going to help you. So think of it like a way to create an executive summary for any body of text.
Yeah, nice. And the last one I'll probably touch on, because I've already touched on developing ideas, but designing logos and mascots. So it's probably not going to give you the final product. It might if you use Midjourney, but ChatGPT probably won't. But this is a really handy tool to then take to a designer and say, hey, here's the initial plans. These are the color schemes that I want, go from here. I remember, if you cast your mind back, Abe, to when we both worked in 5CRM, we were looking to develop a new mascot, and ChatGPT wasn't really used as much back then, and I had to draw stuff on a piece of paper with my,
drawing, though.
5-year-old drawing skills, and take a photo and send that through to a bunch of designers who laughed at me. So instead of doing that, you can put your prompts and your ideas into ChatGPT or Dolly or Midjourney to get those initial ideas, and then take it to whoever you want, designer, content creator, to finalize and polish off that product. So that's sort of the last one.
And one thing I would say as well is those are personal use cases. So those are things that we've used ChatGPT.
We've done.
We've said this works really well. So you might have other things to add to that list that work really well. Maybe you might say they didn't work for you, and interested to know why. But some other use cases that we have seen that work is coding and developing apps. Obviously, we don't code, we don't develop apps, so it's not our bag, so we haven't done it. But one thing I will say is that Jason Gilmore, who is within Xenon, he's creating an app solely using ChatGPT, maybe some other tools, some AI tools, but he's developing an app. He's documenting it on LinkedIn. It's like a screen capture tool. He has no idea about the coding language being used or anything like that, and he's solely just trusting the code that the AI develops to put that out there. So that's really interesting, that you could see a proliferation of software once it becomes more advanced, where you can just put in an idea like, hey, I want a fitness app that's able to track my reps and weights used. Great. Can you now add in, breaking up different exercises, reordering the exercises, things like that you can just add into the application and build it over time.
Yeah. And I've seen people generate games as well in like 5 minutes. Like they've regenerated with the newest ChatGPT. They basically put in a prompt that said, write me the code to recreate Flappy Bird, which was that app that came out years ago, the game, and it generated it in like 5 minutes, and they had a playable game on their computer. So it's, it's there. I just don't have any idea how to use it in the coding space. I need to do some coding courses.
Go be a developer.
There you go. There's our next idea, is ChatGPT act as a tutor, teach me as if I'm stupid how to code, and we'll see what it can come up with. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah. All right, but what is it not good at? What doesn't it do?
Yeah, well, I think we've covered most of this when we went through each use case, but bottom of funnel blog writing, and if you don't understand what I mean by that, is that's your real
listen
target.
To the episode before.
Yeah, listen to the SEO episode, but it's the really targeted blogs, for people that are already in your funnel or in the decision making stage of purchase. So, like Abe said, it's not good at having an opinion. It lacks a bit of creativity and originality, and of course you can feed opinions into the language model, but it will still come back with relatively generic answers. And I guess the final point, which we've already spoken about, is shit in, shit out. You just need to be wary of it. If you're putting in bad data, even if you're just asking it to summarize some data that you've got in an Excel spreadsheet, if that data is not good or incorrect, it's probably going to struggle with it. So just consider the bias due to that bad data. ineffective use cases we've already touched on, but the chatbots for us.
You're not going to take this opportunity to hang some more shit on Pipedrive? Come on, mate.
I won't even mention Pipedrive. The chatbots that just send you in circles and loops versus the Abe's example of Woolworths. So if you're going to use it for that stuff, make sure it's a good user experience, or there's options to speak to humans and bypass it if it can.
And I'll tell you another thing to add to that is outbound. You said it at the start. Don't use AI for outbound solely because it's obvious and it sucks because it doesn't have an opinion. People crave for opinions in this world of AI and generic content that's being produced. So have an opinion, be loud about that opinion, and you're bound to get more success.
Stand out. Yeah, stand out because in a flooded inbox, you're just going to get deleted. Sorry about that, guys.
All right. So, our one question. Thank you to the person who submitted a question. You get a cookie. All right. So
there you go. Prizes.
The prizes.
That's how we encourage engagement.
Yeah. So this one is from Liv from Clean Living. So she's located in Bathurst. Anyone in Bathurst, go check out Clean Living. We reviewed a website previously. But how can you implement AI into a small business? And especially when you look at it in the context of cleaning business. One thing that stands out for me straight away is we looked at Liv's website was last week before, and we went through and said, hey, there's heaps of opportunity here. So one thing you can do is for website copy is utilize ChatGPT to develop website copy. Once again, it's all about the prompts, though. It's all about making sure that make this relevant for Bathurst, make this relevant for a cleaning company, make this relevant for this specific service. Give me a H1, H2, give me the content go below, make sure it's SEO optimized, all those sorts of things that need to go into it to make sure that you get a good product out instead of generic crap. But that in mind, start as small as possible. Too often people come in with these big ideas about how they're going to use AI and they'll just go, great, I'm going to use it for this, this and this. I've got this big project, I'm going to use it. That's the wrong way to start. The right way to start is just piecemeal. Just go, I wonder if we can do this. Boom. Oh, I did it. Great. I know how to do that now. I wonder if we can do this. And then you start to combine that stuff together and that's where you get superpower. But what other tasks for a small business to get started?
Yeah, so social media is a big one. I use, scheduling tools that are so much AI, but you can use the AI to generate the content of your social media posts. So whether it's a LinkedIn post or a Instagram post or something like that. But the other one, and a big one, I like to do it. I try to do it once a quarter rather than do it weekly. But marketing ideas. So if you just push into ChatGPT, this is what my company does. This is our strengths. This is the market we serve. What are some pain points that my customers experience? That's going to give you a lot of ideas around content, and that feeds into your marketing. It feeds into your ads. It feeds into your blog posts. It feeds into your website copy. And then you can spin off your social media posts based on that as well. So I like to do a marketing plan for the quarter, certain themes I want to test. I use AI to do that big planning at the start of the quarter. But you could do it weekly, you could do it monthly. But if you want to be relatively consistent in what you're testing over a longer period, I recommend doing it once a quarter.
Yeah, and I think something that people really struggle with is social media posts and knowing what content to put out there, because it's very noisy, right? And people say, "Oh, what's this? Is that going to work?" And just asking ChatGPT, like, "Hey, give me 5 content ideas for this month. This is what my business does," and it goes, "Sweet, you could do this, this, and this," or give me giveaway ideas, give me prize
ideas, yeah.
Write me, copy to put on the post and things like that. Like using it for all that kind of stuff, because what ChatGPT is going to do, or what the AI is going to do, is it's going to take from all these different sources and look at what's worked and what people have said has been successful, and then provide you with an answer that's creative and based off that historical information. So instead of you having to search through 20 different blogs that are all there just for marketing about, how to create a successful social media campaign, ChatGPT will give you the summarized answer from all of those different websites about what's going to be effective and what ideas try it, and then you can just test it.
Yeah. The other one wasn't on the list, but like book summaries as well. So, or just summaries for anything. You mentioned it before about big document
Like if you're doing
summaries.
university or something, you could just put your lecture notes in or something.
Yeah, you could generate. No comment. You could generate, but like book reviews or downloadable white papers and things like that, like lead magnets. You could use it to generate that sort of content to get people to your website as well.
GPT-4o has this thing where when you tell it to be something, it has like this little memory updated thing. Have you hypothetically tried to upload a university paper and say, hey, I want you to read this and become an expert on this particular topic?
No, I haven't.
Does that work, I wonder? Tune in for next week when Andrew gets done for plagiarism.
I will let you know very soon.
But just as an idea, right? Like I wonder if you could feed it a whole heap of information about like electrical companies or something like that and get it to write instructions. For instance, if you're a trade person that's training someone through an apprenticeship, write instructions for how to do certain tasks. Like just an idea as a small business. If you're, for instance, I know, Liv's trying to grow the team and wants to put processes and systems in place for people. Could you say, hey, these are the focus areas that I have for when I go and clean a house. This is what I look for. These are the steps that I take. Can you turn that into a checklist for staff to go through, and that's a repeatable process for people to clean a house? And then I imagine ChatGPT will be able to give you that checklist, and you just have to make it in whatever format you want. It'd be like, step one, do this. Make sure you look at blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I do know that ChatGPT will analyze an assessment rubric and exemplar and provide you a outline based on those two things.
Oh, cool.
My wife told me. Yeah, my wife told me. Yeah. I don't
Plagiarism police comes for Charlotte,
All right, a bit of a tangent there, but nice place to
use it for small business. I think it's like, just start with the minutiae. Start with things you're like, this is easy, but it's time consuming. Can I get someone else to do it? Like, think of tasks that you could easily delegate to someone, and then just try that in ChatGPT. And you get more comfortable with what you have to put into prompts to get that to happen.
Or things you want to do that you don't think you've got time for, like blogging. I was like, blogging would be great for Teamgate. Don't have the time to do it. It's so time consuming. And ChatGPT has just completely changed that for me. So, yeah, some good places to start exploring. We'd love your feedback. So if you do go out there and start playing with ChatGPT, let us know if you get stuck or if you need some advice, or even if you've got feedback on, what you tested and what worked for you and what didn't. Let us know, and we'll address it in the next couple of episodes. But
all right, for now, like and subscribe to all of our social Beers and Business Pod. We're on TikTok. Andrew's posted a video, highly successful the other day.
It's killing it.
Instagram, Facebook. Instagram, Facebook. We're on LinkedIn as well. YouTube, Spotify, Beers and Business Pod. Get around it. Stay tuned. We're going to put some snippets out, some interesting content that is definitely not AI generated. I might even tell Andrew to start pulling his meme game out. He's got a really strong meme game for those who don't know. So
Can meme.
I might get him to start putting some memes on there so he can help with a bit of promo. But the biggest thing is get that interaction in. Submit some questions, topics, guests that you want us to have on, anything like that. This, for us, the reason that we're doing this is just to provide people with information so they can go out and do good things. So if there's information that you want to know, we want to be able to give it to you. And if we know it, great, we can tell you. If we don't know it, we'll go and find someone that does and get them on you, because I'm bound that we know someone.
For sure. Awesome. Until next time.
Weekly, 10 a.m, Tuesday, Australian Eastern Standard Time. That's when it's going to go live on YouTube and Spotify, so watch out for that and make this your Tuesday ritual. But, till then, cheers. Look what I've got left, a little bit. Can't tell if you don't have a cup anymore.
I don't have any left, mate. Catch up.
Cheers.